Ladies and gentlemen, fellow advocates for liberty, thanks to Atlas Network, I stand in front of you today to represent Franklin Club, a classical liberal think tank in the country of Georgia, the easternmost part of Europe. And by the way, this is my just second public speech in the United States. The first one, which I delivered in exactly 14 years ago, thanks to Google Photos for the reminder last day, was back in 2009 in Chandler, Arizona, when I was participating in exchange program in the desert, basically, and talking to a fellow high schoolers and their parents, 80 people, about my country. Back then, I had two major messages to deliver to them. The first one was that there is actually a country, Georgia, and it shouldn't be compared to the American state. And the second one, so Georgia was not part of Russia. Obviously, high school problems because nobody understood where I was from. And it was very important to understand that even though Georgia was forcefully occupied by Russia for more than 200 years, it is an independent nation which was now writing its own democratic history, with two major northern stars, as we like to say in Atlas Network, to join the European Union and NATO to safeguard our future and to make sure that the obstacles created by Russia on this way are somehow overtaken by us. And despite the fact that Georgia at the time was a newly established state, just regaining independence in 1991, and has just gone through a major Russian military invasion in 2008, I had many arguments to support the case of Georgia's European and freer future. Not that long ago, American President George W. Bush famously said in a protest rally in Tbilisi that Georgia was a shining beacon of democracy in the region. Not that long ago, the World Bank recognized my country as the #1 economic reformer, thanks to the classical liberal reforms orchestrated by the late Kacha Bendukidze under the government of Mikhail Saakashvili. So there were a lot of things to justify. Moreover, Georgia's cyclical history is one of a nation constantly being invaded and fighting for its independence and freedom. From the struggles against the various invaders, just to name a few such as Rome, Persia, Byzantine, Arabs, Mongols, Iran, Turkey, and Russia, that's the constant Georgian history, to the Rose Revolution of 2003, the Georgian nation has shown its unwavering dedication to promoting the cause of freedom and to regaining its independence. However, the path to freedom is never a straight line, so Georgia is also not an exception. In recent years, especially after 2018, Georgian democracy has experienced a major backsliding. This is evidenced by a decline in all major indices which measure governance, economic, and individual rights. Also, this is something seen through many regulations previously unseen in scale, limiting our economic liberties and free market, while our fundamental rights of Georgians, such as the freedom of expression, as well as the ability to determine our Western course, are constantly challenged by increasingly authoritarian government. Thus, the mode in which liberty advocates like me and many colleagues operate in Georgia is the constant fight, in many cases physical one on the streets, to prevent the further decline of freedom in our country. I want you to tell the story of this year. In late 2022, the Georgian parliament introduced the so-called Russian Foreign Agents Law, the law which sent shockwaves through the nation and beyond. The proposed law threatened all critical media and civil society organizations in my country, which would have been forced to label themselves as foreign agents in case it passed. The similar law was adopted in Russia in 1220, and eventually it eradicated what was left of Russia's free civil society and media. Moreover, our major strategic partner, European Union, directly stressed that the passing of the law would have effectively meant the cancellation of Georgia's European aspirations. But nevertheless, Georgian government was determined to pass it, and in early March, the parliament voted for the law in the first hearing. On that night, Georgian people took to the streets in Tbilisi, and a literal fight, a physical fight to protect our freedoms began. Tens of thousands of Georgians, mostly young people, went to the streets, stood in the streets for days and nights, withstanding water cannons, different types of tear gas, and other police equipment. It was a remarkable display of courage and determination, which eventually forced the authorities to withdraw the law. But it is extremely important to realize, as the Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back highlights, that it was a tactical victory. The fight for freedom was continuing. Soon after, civil society in Georgia, and especially my organization, Franklin Club, became the major target of the government's propaganda. We and our partners, such as the University of Georgia and Atlas Network, face unprecedented levels of attacks from government-controlled media and linked trolls and bot networks, as well as personal assaults from the highest echelons of government, including from the Prime Minister. Attacks aimed to silence us, to diminish our donor base, and effectively cancel our projects to promote freedom. The subsequent arrest of my colleague, Eduard Marikashvili, who you see on the slide, who is the chairperson of GDI, an Atlas Network partner organization in Georgia, who participated in a process with an empty piece of paper in his hand, was an extremely evident reminder that the government was not backing down in its quest to silence civil society in Georgia. In times like this, we must remember Ben Franklin's word that those who would give us essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Today, Georgians live with that choice, and the upcoming decisive parliamentary elections in 2024 could result in the point of no return. If Georgian people fail to reform our commitment to freedom, we could slide into the further grips of Belarus-type dictatorship. The stakes are extremely high, and these elections could decide the future of my country for decades to come. Thus, my call for support today is not just a cry of our own, but a call to defend the values and principles of liberty that bind us all together. The importance of your support of our American and European allies cannot be overstated. In a nation like Georgia, even a relatively modest contribution can have a considerable impact. Atlas Network and its projects in Georgia have a good example of that, and your involvement could be the turning point in the struggle. One in the United States may ask, why should I care about Georgia? The answer to this question is quite simple. Even though freedom is individual in nature, it does not exist alone in vacuum, no matter where you live. Thus, for the protection of your own freedoms, it is essential that freedom for oppose in the easternmost places of democratic civilization like Georgia exist. Otherwise, the grips of authoritarianism will inevitably catch us all. This is why we count on your support and strongly believe that our fight is your fight as well, and that's why I also brought this quote by Senator McCain. In closing, it would be extremely unjust not to mention that there are many other foreposts protecting our civil liberties and freedoms and democracies, but one of them stands out the most today, and I ask us all again to express our support to Ukraine, which is defending us all in the battlefields from the new form of fascism called Putinism. Unfortunately, Georgia was the first country in 2008 to experience what Putinism is, and we fully feel the struggle Ukrainians are going through today, with thousands of Georgian soldiers fighting shoulder to shoulder and dying together with Ukrainians, because they understand that the future of the free world is decided in Ukraine today, and our support should continue until Ukraine emerges fully victorious. Glory to freedom, glory to Georgia, glory to Ukraine. Thank you.